Check out that cool airplane. There have been a lot of people that have been excited about the arrival of the Aerosoft Twin Otter for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I got to tell you, I'm one of those. Not only because it's just some goofy little, twin prop-liner here, but, the thing about the Twin Otter is it was a really, really versatile airplane. I mean, you could land the thing on a beach. I call it Barra, I think. The pronunciation escapes me sometimes. But you could land this thing on a beach. You could also have it in there flying in and out of airports like Gatwick. Unfortunately, FlyBe is kind of one of those airlines that's long gone. Someone's trying to revive it, but I always thought it was, kind of a cute little regional name. So we're going to fly FlyBe. Originally, the FlyBe Twin Otters were operated by Loganair, Scotland's airline. So we've got that all set up. Today's flight for us today's flight should be, well, I don't know if it was an actual Twin Otter flight, but I figured it'd be kind of nice. There was the old FlyBe route map. I mean, all the way from north of Kirkwall down into Paris and Frankfurt, all over the UK. But I figured let's go ahead and try something like Manchester to Southend. Close to the beach. It's cold. People are ready for beach and stuff like that. So how about if we do that particular flight? So here's the information for you on today's flight. We're going to be in the Twin Otter. We're going Manchester to Southend. Schedule for the flight is basically 3:35 in the afternoon to 4:42. We're at gate 51 in Manchester right now, going to gate 2 at Southend. The add-ons that I'm going to be using for this flight, along with Microsoft Flight Simulator and the new payware airplane from Aerosoft, the de Havilland Twin Otter. I use Sim Toolkit Pro and SimBrief. I also have SkyVector that I used for VOR to VOR navigation. Nav data comes in from Navigraph, and I'm also using ADP charts. And then there's a free application called Toolbar Pushback. I don't think we're going to do much of that. We're going to try and do a power back from the gate, but that's one of those easy things to do. So before we take off, a couple little bits and bobs of information for you. We're going to keep this super simple. With airplanes like this, there are tons of rabbit holes that you can hop down. The whole goal of this video is to help you take off, fly, and land, and feel like, okay, we did it. You can hop down your rabbit holes a little bit later on. Get your charts ready to go. So this is a YouTube video. You get to stop and start it as you need to. So get your charts ready to go. And again, I like to say this, there's no right way versus the wrong way on this video. This is just simply something that works for me. And then the last little bits, you should fly along on this. That's why I put the flight data up. So go get your copy of Microsoft Flight Simulator set up. Get to the gate here in Manchester so that as I push buttons, you can push buttons. Then after you do this flight, I really suggest that you do a flight out of your hometown airport to some other airport. That way, you just can take what it is that you learned on this flight and do it in another environment. Again, like I've said, pause and restart the video as you need to. Roll it back a little bit. If I went by something a little bit fast, roll it a little bit back till you get what it is, which button push you might have missed. And then join us on Twitch over on the Spy Flights. We fly this thing all the time. Again, our route today is Manchester to Southend. We're taking off on Manchester's route, runway 23 right. Our cruise altitude for today is 9,000 feet. This is all VOR to VOR navigation. We're landing at Southend's runway 23 based on the weather that we've got right now. I think I've got real world weather cranked into this thing. We'll check in just a second. Flight time is 1 hour and 11 minutes. We're going to go a whopping 185 nautical miles. So here we go. Let's hop into the plane. The first thing I want to do is let's go to the weather page. Let's make sure I've got, I have a few clouds. So we've got real world time, live time. Let's go to live weather. I mean, seriously, it's all about live weather with this. They've got it working. So there's our live weather and live time. We're not going to be on VATSIM or anything like that. This is just a total sit back, chill out, and learn the right buttons to push. And there's still some buttons that I don't have 100% figured out on this airplane. Okay, so first of all, with sim airplanes, you got to load it up. You got to put your passengers aboard and your fuel. With this airplane, there's no iPads or anything like that. The way you load this airplane is with the big the fuel and payload menu within Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, most flight sims, most flight sim planners, like the ones that I use, which is SimBrief and Sim Toolkit Pro, they give you a zero fuel weight. And if you look at all these numbers here, zero fuel weight is right down there. 4.5 kgs is what we've gotten. I'm running this in kgs. It just seems to be simpler for Microsoft Flight Simulator. So 4.4551 is our zero fuel weight. Well, if you look over here, no, don't see zero fuel weight. What are we going to do? Well, got to do a little bit of math on this one, but I'm going to be lazy because it's early in the morning and I haven't had enough coffee. So what we're going to do is put that zero fuel weight into the Microsoft calculator here. And again, it's 4,551, 4551. The next thing I'm going to do is get the empty weight of the airplane. That's 3522. So minus 3522 equals a zero fuel weight. There you go. That's how it is that I'm coming up with the payload. So that's what we've got here. Zero fuel weight was 4551 minus, okay, I kind of got that twisted. I'll drink more coffee. So for payload, we want this number right here, payload 1275. We want it to be 1029. So let's go and slide this out of the way, and then we're going to take the slider and get it as close to 1029 as we can. 10, up, there we go. Looks like it's going to be 1037. There's your payload. There's the number of passengers. I don't know how many passengers we've got, but that just gives you, we now have an accurate payload based on what we got out of our flight plan. The next thing we need to know is how much gas do we put in this airplane? And this is planned gate fuel. This is right here. Our full amount of fuel for the flight is going to be 3 hours and 44 minutes, but this is only an hour and 11 minutes. So 851 is what we need to put in here for fuel. So go over to fuel. Here's the slider. Where does it say fuel? Right there. So we need to change that number to 851. So go over here and looks like 856. Sometimes the slider is really hard to go. There we go. There's 7. That's too little. 856. All right, 865. That's about as close as you're going to get. Again, making the slider exact. Now, you can probably go into the numbers here and put in some exact numbers. I just as soon fly the plane, so I think that this is probably the best thing for us to do. So there we go. We've got 865. Our fuel is loaded. Our passengers are loaded, and that's how you go about loading the airplane. Oh, whoops. It should have been over on kgs. Sorry about that. Let's see here. So put that over on kgs. Let's just check the number. Important, pounds or kgs. Everything I'm doing right now is in kgs these days. So 865, it should have been 851. That's close enough. Maximum payload 1037. That's correct too. Okay, so hit the X button and our airplane should be loaded. Now, as far as the route today, what I did is I use SkyVector, and SkyVector is how I'll go about figuring out a VOR to VOR. You could also use a little nav map. I have it. I haven't learned how to use it yet, but that's also really good for VOR to VOR. There's also a VOR to VOR planner within Microsoft Flight Simulator itself. I'm going to go ahead and do it this way, just because this is the way I've been doing it. So go ahead and you start by putting in your departure airport, your destination airport, and then you just go through and follow your route of flight and pick out some VORs. If you happen to know what the weather is like, you might want to go around an area of thunderstorms. But this is pretty much our direct VOR to VOR route down to London Southend Airport. After you've done that, what you want to do is hit the navlog button. And now all of a sudden you've got frequencies and you've got a true heading to each VOR station, and you even get the distance. So go ahead, and I usually save a copy of the SkyVector, the navlog, to my desktop. So along with the flight plan, if you look in the PDFs and stuff that I've got all set, there's our flight plan, and there is the nav log. So I've got my VOR stations right there, and we know how to program it all out. Okay, so we got that there. That's good. We've got this. This is a really great tool. Now, this is something, it says, see where it says sign in? Unless you're a real world pilot, do not sign in. This is a real world thing. You don't want to go and do that and file flight plans because you're filing, I think, real world stuff, and that could be a problem. And we don't want to do that. All right, we've got our fuel. We've got our route. I say it's time to hop into the best seat in the house. And there is the best seat in the house right there. Yes, the pilot seat, and this is such a cool airplane. Now, one of the things that I do with a new airplane like this is I usually watch a few YouTube videos like this one, and then I put together what I call the spy flows. And this is a notepad file, and this is sort of like a to-do list. It's an expanded checklist. So this is a great thing to have, and there is a Discord channel for the spy flight. I will try and remember to put a link in the description so that you can click on that, and I've gone and I put this text file over there, and you should be able to find that so you can download it. And then the best thing to do is change it, make it work for you, put special notes in that you might want to have. The other text file that I have open on my desktop is what I call the fly strip. And this kind of represents the data strip in a way that the air traffic controllers used to have. You remember those plastic things that they used to slide up and down? Well, this is my flight strip, and this is all the information that I need from the flight plan. It's all very convenient in one place. And this is especially handy when you're doing a big VATSIM event like Cross the Pond and Cross the Land, which is coming up. So this is kind of what it is that I've got. I've got my route of flight. I've got the latest weather information. Actually, this is getting kind of old. I did this weather information early. So let's go to Sim Toolkit Pro and get the latest METAR for London Southend. I know we're not at Southend yet, but I always like to have the weather where we're going in my charts. So let's put that in. And yep, this is new weather. So let's also get EGCC. This is a great place to just go and get the weather. I really like having this information just right in front of me. So this helps me stay a little bit more organized when I'm on a big VATSIM event. Okay, let's get rid of this. And that goes over there. We've got the latest weather information. I think now is a perfect time for us to go and start doing, one more thing the pilots do. The real-world pilots, go get your charts ready to go. Get them all set up in advance. I'm using the NDP charts because this is the Lido style of charts. And so, hey, look at this. We see that we've got, there's our gate, 51. There's the taxi route over to our main runway, 23 right. Here's the big map, 23 right. So this gives us all of the charts that we need. Here is the approach that we are expecting coming into London Southend. So we do have an ILS that we can use. And then we've also got the charts for London Southend. So when we coming in on runway 23, is that what we're going to be doing? Yeah, I think that's what the weather is. So actually, this is the runway 5. I messed up. So go back in here, and let's get runway 23. Add that to the little knee board there. There's runway 23. Now, on a big VATSIM event, one of the things that I'll do is, let's say we're going into something like Atlanta. Let's say that I know that Atlanta is landing to the east. I'll get the ILS chart for each one of those runways for landing east, and I'll have them all stacked up there because controllers are sometimes going to move you over to another runway. Just a little bit of planning ahead. Okay, so we got this. There's runway 23. All of our charts are good. Now I think it's time for us to start doing the fun stuff, which is flipping buttons and stuff. That's the thing to do. So, are our passengers aboard? Yes, they are. Are the doors closed? Well, you can kind of look in here and look back in the passengers, and yep, doors are closed. Passengers are seated. So the next thing to do is you look down here, you see there's this control lock. You get rid of the control lock by clicking the floor. And when you do that, your control column might move a little bit. So this is a good time to, does my control column move? Sure does. Do my rudder pedals move? They sure do, so that's a good thing. And then one of the things that I do is, this is a very nice control column, but I click the base of the column. It gets it out of the way so that I can see stuff. Okay, so that's good. Now the next thing to do is look up here. Are your controls all the way back? This is a good time to move your throttle. Make sure that the throttle works. Make sure that you have control of your props. After you do that, though, be sure you put these back over into the feather position. There we go. And that's good. So the controls are all the way to the back of the airplane. Fuel switches. Okay, so looking over here at the fuel switches, fuel is cut off. So that's good. And now it's time to turn the airplane on. And you do that over here. And let's see, zoom it on in, go down this way. Here it is, the DC master button and the battery button. So we're going to go to battery. You could also plug into ground power if you wanted to, if you knew you were going to be sitting there for a long time and you don't want to drain the battery. So that goes on, and then the DC master goes on, and all of a sudden the plane turns to life, and all sorts of noises start on this one. They're still working on some sounds, but I think the sounds on this thing are absolutely outstanding. I'm enjoying the sounds on this airplane a lot. So after that, we're going to do position lights, and we're going to do no smoking because they're going to be gassing up the airplane. Now we can do some caution tests, some pre-takeoff checks. Let's do the caution lights. Oh, and there's all the caution lights and a beeper. All right, that's good. Enough of that one. We can do the fire test. This is not your old school cell phone. So there's that. I think that bell for the fire, I'm not 100% sure. I think that's the bell for the fire behind you. I think that might be it. I'm not 100% sure. And then the last thing is down here on the controls, you can test the boost pumps. So this is a boost pump test that you're supposed to do. You could also, if you wanted to do some math, verify your fuel. Make sure you got enough fuel on the airplane too. So we've done all those. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some radios here. So let's go ahead and just look here. I am by no means a master at the Garmin's here, but what I can do is I can tune some things. So let's go ahead and we're going to go and get the first chart. Remember this one I was showing you? Our VORs. We need the HON VOR. So that's our first VOR station, HON, which is 113.65. So let's go ahead and put this in right now. So click the push CV button, and that moves it down to VLOC, which is the VOR tuning. And that first one is 113.65. So we're 113.9. So the smaller one is 113.65, and we're going to hit the button and make that active. The next VOR is DTY. So the DTY VOR is 116.4. So I'm going to go and do 116.4. This is all part of planning ahead. And this is, if you can do things like this beforehand, boy, does that make your life a lot easier. Now, I'm also going to go and do this with the backup. So let's go down to the backup here. And this goes down. And the backup. We're going to do the same thing with the NAV2. So push, select NAV2, and our first frequency, 113.65. I've just kind of found that it's kind of nice to do this. 113.65. Make that active. And 1164. And hopefully the method to my madness will become apparent in a little bit. 113.65, 1164, 113.65, 1164. If you're on VATSIM, now's a perfect time to tune your comm radios to 122.8, or if you've got ATC, to go ahead and do that. As far as the map and the waypoints, I'm not even going to do that. This is VOR to VOR navigation on this one. The next thing we'll do is we're going to turn our transponder on to standby, and I'm going to just go with the VFR code in the United States. So we got that set up too. I'm going to leave the autopilot alone right now, and all of this is good. The next thing to do is set the altimeter, and we already got the weather information. It is, oh, I cut off the last number. I sometimes do that. 1033. 1033. So let's go over here and go 1033. High pressure today in Manchester. a nice day in the neighborhood. Up, there we go. Sometimes it zooms in. I'm using the thumb wheel, and I keep saying I'm going to turn the zoom off the thumb wheel, and it never happens. I never remember to do that. Okay, 1033. Now let's just slide over here, and look at that, 1033. It sets the first officers too, and boy, does that make life a little nice. Our first heading after takeoff to the VOR, we're going to be on the 162 degree radial. So let's dial this over right now to 162. And it's always at the opposite end, and I always turn this thing the wrong way. 162 is what we want. That's the radial that we're supposed to be on for going down to our first VOR. So there's 12, 13, 15. There's 16, 12, 162. Now let's also set our departure runway. We get that off the charts. There's our chart. Manchester, we're 23 right, so our heading is 232 degrees. So 232 is our heading off the runway. So we'll dial this over here. This is our heading bug. There is 23. There's 23012. There we go. All that's good. As for the altitude, I'm going to go ahead and dial this in. This is a part of the system that I am not doing really well with right now, is altitude capture. I hope that I'm going to be able to make this work this time. It's either one of two things. They still needing to do a little bit of work on the autopilot, or pilot error is very probably what it's going to be. So what we've gone and done is we've set our radios, we've set our altimeter, our heading bug, and our cruise altitude. So that's good, and it is time for us to start firing up the airplane. So up here we go. Passengers are in their seats. We're going to make it official. Seatbelt sign going on, and we're going to turn on the anti-collision light. That lets the ground crew know that the Assassin's Creed swords that we have got spinning around on our wings are going to start spinning around. So that's pretty good. Let's go ahead, and we're going to go down here. Forward and aft boost pumps are going on. There's the boost pumps. Looking good there. And let's go and start an engine. There, the starter is over here. It's underneath the DC master. So we're going to go ahead and click the button to the right. Engine number 2 is first. Look down over here, and we're looking for the GG. This is gas generation at 12%. There's 12. We're going to turn on the fuel. And look at that. There's one of those sets of Assassin's Creed swords spinning on the wings. How about that? And we've got our first engine going. So far, so good. Let's go and start another engine here. Same thing as before. Look up here. Starter goes to left engine. Look down here, the gas generation, RPM. Look up there when it's 10, 11, and 12. Look up here, fuel cutoff. Whoops, not feather. Grab the wrong one. Hey, we got 2 engines going there. And we're going to look here at the controls, at the engines, and make sure everything's kind of equal. Okay, there's the prop RPM. It's kind of coming up to match the other one. Gas generation's about the same. Nothing's in the red zone, so we call that pretty good. Let's go and unfeather the props. So we come and look up here and move these down until they click. And then look back down here. Everything's still looking good. Now we're going to put the throttles up until gas generation, this one here, is 70%. You should have already checked to make sure that your brakes are on, otherwise the airplane would start rolling about now, and that's a bad thing. Okay, so those are up there. Now we're going to click in the generators. And this is in the upper panel, so generators are now on. Let's also turn on bleed air, and we're going to turn on auto for the temperature in the cabin. This airplane flies low, and it might be bouncing around a little bit, and so good airflow back to the cabin might be a good thing to do because, you know, some passengers might, you know, get sick to their stomach. Now, we could call a pushback truck, but let's see if we can't put this thing into reverse. Let's see if we can't reverse the props. So put your feet on the rudder pedals, if you've got rudder pedals, and get ready to tap the brakes. So parking brakes are off, tap the brakes. Throttle's down to idle. And then look over here. There's your throttles, and if you've got a reverse set up, push your reverse button. And see, nope, that's not reverse. Push it again. Sometimes that's a thing. Just because you hit reverse doesn't mean they go into reverse. Now our props are reversing. Look out the window. Slowly move those props forward. And if you're lucky, you should start rolling backwards. Oops, I screwed something up. Oh, no, I didn't. We're rolling back. Patience. So we just did our nice little power back here. And generally what I'll do is power back or push back to, you see these, the white lines here? Those are, that's actual for ground traffic. So this is where cargo loaders and fuel trucks would drive. You generally push your plane back beyond that line. And now throttles are idle. And I'm going to let it coast to a stop. When you're doing these power back kinds of things, when you do a power back like that, one of the things that will happen is you could stand the airplane on the tail. Okay, so with that, let's go over here and we're going to push that reverse button again. See if it goes forward. It goes forward. So we got that done. After this, well, let's go ahead and do props to max. Props are now maximum forward. Flaps, let's set our flaps for takeoff, and that's going to be flaps 10. Flaps are up here, so flaps are 10. You also have a flap indicator right here in front of you too. So those are good. We're also going to be going out, so let's do the pitot 2P. That's good, and the taxi light. All right, so we have pushed back. Next thing to do is go to your charts. We're over here. We have pushed back from gate 51. So what we're going to do is we're going to come out here and go 51 Gulf. We're going to look for this Gulf 4 to Juliet, and we're going to do a Mike 1 departure here. So we're going to do an intersection departure at Mike. So right turn, left turn, right turn. Just kind of being able to visualize your taxi route before you start taxiing, especially if you're new in VATSIM, boy, does that take some confusion out of it all. Okay, tow brakes on, parking brakes off. Look left, anybody there? Look right, nobody there, let's go. Throttles up a little bit until and I'm looking in the lower right-hand corner to see if the airplane's rolling. As soon as we're rolling, let's start doing a right turn. And then if you've got a nice view set up, you can look over off the right side. Might need to add a little bit more power on this one. And there we go. You might notice that your de Havilland Twin Otter kind of rocks back and forth. This is not a big airplane. This is not a big old Boeing. This is not an Airbus. So if your airplane's kind of rocking back and forth like that, that's what these airplanes do. Okay, this should be the Gulf 4, and this is taking us out to the runway. So we're going to make that left turn now. And then our next right should be the Mike 1 taxiway that we want. Taxiing outside the airplane is a very good skill for a flight sim pilot because, hey, we also like to see our airplanes too. What a cool little airplane. Okay, and if we did everything right, that next right turn up there should be Mike 1. And as we get a little bit closer, we'll be able to read the taxi signs, and if that's the case, then that's a good thing. This should be the Juliet taxiway. What does that say? Juliet. I couldn't see it. Did that say Mike 1? How about this sign? Did that say Mike 1? Holy moly, look at that. It said Mike 1. It's so cool when the charts match. When the airport matches the charts. And here's our hold short point. We're not on VATSIM, but we are on Microsoft Flight Simulator multiplayer right now. So I'm going to go do parking brakes here. And let's just go outside and see, is there anybody on approach? Nobody's on approach. Is there anybody over here? No, nobody over here. So looking good. This is just being polite. If somebody's on approach, why taxi out in front of them? We've already done all the checks and stuff right now. I think it's time to go and fly the airplane. So let's do parking brakes off, toe brakes, parking brakes, add a little bit of power. Start rolling airplane. There we go. Sometimes it takes a little bit of power to get you going, but then be ready to pull back because you don't want to be going too fast. We are going on to an active runway. So active runway, I'm going to go up to the upper panel and do my strobes. So strobe lights, oh, going way too fast out here. Strobes are up. Out on the runway. All right, we're going to throttle up to a torque pressure. That's this over here. That's these guys on the top. 30 PSI. So slowly up to 30 PSI. My feet are on the brake pedals. There's 30%. Let's do landing lights. Stable engines. Brakes release. And now we're going to go up to about 47%. And it's up and away time. Airplane likes to fly at about 75. There's 50, 60, 65, 70 and a half, 75. Pull back gently, and the airplane should go up. Oh, look at that. We have just tested the laws of physics and gravity, and we have proven that it works. Okay, so one of the things is when I was learning to fly in a Cessna, the flight instructor always said, tap your brakes after you take off. All right, not a bad takeoff. We're gonna let the nose go down till we get to 100 knots. Flaps up. And I'm going to basically pitch my climb for about 100 knots. And now is a great time to trim the airplane for that too. So there's trim for 100 knots. While we're also at it, let's go ahead and do AP and heading hold. So let's go engage and heading. Now then, one of the things is you saw it stopped my climb. So we have to come over here and hit the altitude button. And feet per minute, and let's go ahead and go. This is where I'm kind of screwing stuff up here. So I wanted heading hold, but this is being a brat. Okay, so let's go ahead and try and do 10,000 feet, 9,000. Hit it again. So this is where I'm screwing up. Now, all of a sudden we can do, and I'm doing about an 800 foot per minute climb. And that just, again, this is something that I'm either screwing up or they have to fix. All right, so our heading hold is good. Let's go ahead and get on the base course to our first VOR, and we already know that heading is going to be the yellow pointer. So let's go and dial that basically over there. If you've forgotten, if you've got your charts in front of you, we know that the heading is going to be 162, so we're going to 162. Flight directors aren't being accurate right now. We don't have a VOR hooked in yet. See, let's see if I can dial this down to 9,000 feet. Okay, so we got a pretty good climb. Look at this. Our VOR just came alive. How about that? And if you look over here, you can see that we're relatively close. So let's go ahead and go 10 degrees to the right. And let's see if we can't center that up. Nice climb. Our flaps are up. That's pretty good. Climbing at about 47 there. Now, from what I've been seeing, you then go and put your props down to 90% for the climb. That's actually where we are right now, according to my prop setting. So 90%, no, actually, no, we're at 100. Let's drop it down one. There it is, 90%. So I moved my, my propeller handle down just a little bit to 90%. If you want to check where you are and you're using Sim Toolkit Pro, you can go like this and you can see, oh, look at this, we're in relatively good shape. We're going over to get on our course line down to the first VOR. Wow, we're right where we're supposed to be. Imagine that. Now this is where I'm going to get in trouble here. We're at 4,000 feet. As we continue the climb, I'm going to get in just a little bit of trouble here. Because capturing the altitude, it's a little bit messy for me. So I'm still trying to figure that out. We're climbing at about 100 feet per minute. Our speed, though, is pretty fast. We could climb a little bit faster if we wanted to. Generally, I think you're supposed to climb at about 100 knots on this one, but it's a nice gentle climb, and plus it gives us a chance to look outside and see the really, really great scenery, which is what Microsoft Flight Simulator is all about. How far away are we from the VOR? Look over here. Distance to the Han VOR is 57 miles. This instrument is working pretty good. I've had some problems with this in the past, so that's why I had my backup VOR set up to the same radio. But now that that's done, let's slide over here, and now I'm going to hit nav2. And I'm going to change that to my next VOR. And my next course heading from Han to DTY is 121 degrees. So let's go over here and dial this to 121. This is our next one, and this should show our next radio station. And look at that. I think we're already picking up our next radio station. Let's fly the flight plan, though. So there's 12 and 121. When we get to the first VOR, this should probably be centered up, if everything stays the way it's supposed to stay. Outside the airplane, things are pretty good. We haven't run into anybody yet. Transition altitudes outside of Manchester, I believe, are 6,000 feet. You can check your charts. And to do that, you would go to a Manchester and look at a SID chart. Just any old SID chart will give your information. Transition was 5,000 feet. So that's when we reset our altitudes. 5,000 feet, so. Dial this back down. I think you have to dial it down manually. (2992 inches of mercury, 1013 hectopascals). So we've gone past the transition. And as you're doing your flying around in Microsoft Flight Simulator, particularly an airplane like this, so one of the things to do is have your map ready to go and just take a look and see, okay, what are we coming up on here? Any interesting towns? There's Litchfield over there. There's Nottingham. Leicester is there. Coventry is where we're going to be making our turn. It's so cool to have a map like this, and then you get to look outside and say, oh, holy moly, there's Lake whatever. Now, it's really pretty cool, especially if you're around a famous place like Loch Ness, and if you've gone and gotten the free download of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry from flightsim.to. That's near Loch Ness. So you can actually go and fly and see these points of interest on the map and say, yep, there you go. There's Hogwarts, even though that's not real. There's lots of real places to go and see too. Here's an airplane up here. This is Raphael flying by. Raphael probably didn't know that I was doing a cold and dark today. But there's one of the people that flies along on the spy flight all the time. It's over on Twitch. We pretty much always do flights so that if you're a beginner, you can fly along, but if you're a little more advanced, you can fly along too. I always try and make it so that you can fly with us. And I put the flight plans up. Well, next week's flight plan is already up over on Discord. I've also got the day-to-day flight plans I put up an hour before we take off, so you've got time to be ready to go. Speed's coming down just a little bit on the climb. That's fairly normal. We're passing 7,000 feet, so 2,000 feet to go. We're going to stop at 9,000. Now, I believe that what happens is at 9,000 feet, we hit the altitude button, and that should hold it. We shall see. Again, I think it's pilot error. I just don't think I know what I'm doing. But some people have suggested, no, there might be a little bit of a problem with that, which Aerosoft, I'm sure, if there is, will fix it soon. We've left the airport. It's not 10,000 feet, but we've left the airport. We can go up here and do landing lights off. It's a nice, smooth day. I'm going to go and do seatbelts off, too. Let's also turn off the taxi light. No reason to have that on. We don't have to worry about icing, but your de-icing controls are up here. I think it's going to be a really nice day all across the UK today. We're getting a little bit closer to our flight path. As you can see, this is getting closer. How close are we getting to the VOR? 46 miles to our first big turn. Okay, according to all of my information, as well, oh, there it is. There is our indicator that we are 1,000 feet away. So we're going to go and get ready to hit the altitude button and hope that that's what holds us there. We shall see. Like I said, I have kind of a problem with this, as I've already talked about. Let's not do it again. Once we get up to cruise, the props go to 75%, which is basically just right above the feather click. And your throttles go to 40 PSI, which, well, we're pretty much at 40 PSI right now. So we'll just roll the throttles back. Okay. Almost there. 300 feet, and we're going to hit the altitude button. What could possibly go wrong? 200. Okay, so altitude, this light just turned on here. So the light just turned on. So let's see. It looks like it's slowing our rate of climb. Maybe I did something right this time. Who knows? Now it looks like it's going up a little more. Now it looks like it's stopping. 9,000. If it stops the climb, which it appears to be stopping, okay, props down to 75. So that's about 75 for prop RPM. And okay. And now it's holding. I don't know what I did right. I don't know what I did wrong, but there you go. And we are at cruise. So props are just above feather. Lights are off. Torque pressure is going up just a little bit. You want your torque pressure down. That's basically your throttles on this airplane to about 40%. And we are in cruise mode. And we're going to cruise about 135, 140. This is not a speedy plane by any stretch of the imagination. And we're getting close to our to the radial that we want to track in on. And if you want to take a look at your Sim Toolkit Pro map, you can see, look at that. We're coming up right up on there. I don't believe it. This is in about 5 flights in this thing, this is the first time that it actually captured my altitude. One of the reasons that I decided to leave that in as I did this cold and dark video is, again, it's whatever works. Eventually this will be fixed, but it's okay to fly along and have something like that blow up and solve the problem in some way. That's a good part of learning this airplane stuff. So I decided to, leave my obvious screw up in so that you could see this is how you solve these problems. We're almost centered up here. And in fact, now that we're this close, let's try a little experiment. We're going to go ahead and click this up to the nav button. So we just clicked nav, and now this thing's going to, I believe, turn us onto our course heading, and it will track us right to the VOR. How about that? This airplane does not fly high and smooth like a jet. It wobbles a little bit like that. It bounces up and down with the air. So, don't expect this to behave in any way, shape, or form like an Airbus or anything. How we doing here? We are 37 miles out. We're already picking up our next VOR. Now this one here, the bottom radio here says ENR. Is that our next VOR? Let's check that. No, actually it's DTY is what this is set up to, 1164, but it's not identifying it here. It identifies it up here on the big one, but not the other one. And as you can see, we don't have any DME on this one either. DME, distance measuring equipment. You know what I forgot to do? Very bad pilot here. I forgot to squawk Mode Charlie on takeoff. If we were on VATSIM, they would have said, hey, you're not squawking Mode Charlie. What's wrong with you? Okay, so this is looking pretty good. Now, one of the things that I will do is this is our, even though LNAV essentially has got control of the airplane. LNAV isn't the proper word, but since the navigation is controlling, but this is our heading, I always like to sync up my heading, always get it pointed right at the top there in case I have to take over control from the autopilot. If anything, it's a reminder of this is the direction you're supposed to be going. We are 33 miles. Everything looks great outside the airplane too. We can come back here, seatbelt sign is off. Yeah, the seatbelt sign works in this airplane. No smoking is on. You can look outside the window and you can look and see the prop spinning around. You can see the back flaps here. This is also a fairly accurate representation of what the passenger cabins look like. I don't think that there's a bathroom on this one. If there is, it's an emergency porta potty and you really don't want to use that. So, important safety tip, do not tank up on coffee before you get on this airplane. This is this kind of airplane. You want the Grande, not the Venti, before a flight in this. You can also do some monitoring of your fuel on this one. So you can monitor your fuel and you can do some calculations. How's our fuel going? Are we going to have enough to make it? Generally, I've found that we'll make it. So another good thing to do with these is to go and look for the manual for this airplane. And finding the manual on this might be a little hard. So let me show you where it is. You know where your community folder is in Microsoft Flight Simulator? That's an important thing to know. This is where my community folder is. And I actually put all of this over on another drive. So, because I knew I was going to have a lot of airplanes and airports. But you're not going to find this in the community folder. You're going to find this in the official folder. And one store. And now look out, there's the Aerosoft CRJ. Well, look at this, Aerosoft Twin Otter right at the top. Documentation, Manual, English. I'm going to assume that there'll be other manuals down the road in other languages. I usually will go when I get a new airplane, I will try and find the manual. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to go copy. And I'm going to paste a copy of the manual onto my desktop. That way it's right there. And the first page is blank. And now all of a sudden here's information. And they did a really nice job on this manual. There's a lot that you can look in here. There's even some checklists in there, some real-world checklists if you want. So, you know, if diving down the rabbit hole on an airplane like this is your goal, this manual's good. But that's usually what I do when I get a new manual. Okay, let's do... How we doing here? We are 26 miles away. We're holding 9,000 feet. As we get closer to our next VOR station, this one should start to move. This also is a good reminder of what your next course heading is going to be. So we're heading this way and we're going to go that way. Left turn. And you know what? Just knowing in your head, okay, what are we doing next? Is it a right turn or is it a left turn? Oh, it's a left. Just knowing things like that, especially as you're trying to transition from beginner to I'm going to go and fly in a VATSIM event, little things like that are really going to help you figure stuff out. I can't tell you how just saying, okay, which way am I turning on the taxiway, right or left? Seriously, there's so many other things going on that really does help. There's great UK scenery right there. I'm serious. I really kind of feel like, you know, after, you know, the nasty virus goes away and we can actually, you know, travel like we used to for, you know, like fun. I feel flying around here, when I finally get to go and do my trip around the UK, I'm going to know a little bit of my way around thanks to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Oh, this is that one place in Nottingham, you know. I should be able to find a good brew pub or something. Where's the pizza? They should have pizza points of interest here. Anti-collision lights, position lights, no smoking are on. Fasten seatbelts are off. Taxi lights are off. Pitot tube heat is on. Bleeds are on. Strobes are on. Generators are on. Everything is in good shape. Real pilots will do a scan like that. In the Airbus, they do that scan, I believe it's every 30 minutes is what they're required to do. And they'll go through all the ECAM stuff. We are 20 miles away from our first checkpoint in the sky. As we get closer, because I'm flying this flight manually, and here's another good thing to try and think about doing. What's the next thing that you're going to do? Well, okay, we're going to be making a right turn from this point to this point. We're going to go from this first VOR to the next VOR. So what I'm going to do is make sure my heading is synced, and I'm going to go to heading mode in about, 5 miles away. And then as these things start to move around a little bit, I'll do my turn with this. After I'm done with my turn, I'll come over here and I will reselect my radio. I'll put 1164 as my main radio, my main navigation radio. Come back over here, see how we're doing as far as are we on the course heading we want to be on the radio? Are we in our proper place in the sky? And then at that point, I would re-engage nav mode for our next turn and let the airplane do some of the work. I generally do that all about 5 miles beforehand, but by going over it in your head like this, I gotta tell you, that's another great way to learn how to fly these airplanes and be able to fly something like this in a VATSIM event. I think that this airplane, once I learn the altitude hold stuff that I'm clearly having a problem with, I'd take this in a VATSIM event in the UK. And, I might get in trouble, but I seriously doubt that the VATSIM police are going to be knocking on the door or something, Boy, we are the VATSIM police. We understand you've been flying, small airplanes in London airspace. We're going to have to take you down for questioning. I don't think that's going to happen. Because the VATSIM police are coming to get you. 15 miles. So in 10 miles, the little thing that I just went through in my head, that's what we're going to do. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, let's go over here. I'm just going to make sure that my charts are in the next thing I need. Again, it's a planning ahead thing. Charts are good. Let me give you another little strategy that I do when I'm on a VATSIM event. Okay? These airplanes are meant for two people. And the pilot's flying, the co-pilot does the radios. Or the co-pilot does the radios and the pilot's flying. Well, you're just one person here in your sim cockpit, but you're expected to do everything that everybody else does. So if we're flying along, and let's say that Captain Coop up here is flying to the same airport that we are. We know that Captain Coop, and we're on the same ATC frequency, and I hear that Captain Coop has been said, change frequencies, go to London South Center at 122.22. I'm going to think, I bet we're going the same place. That's probably our next frequency. At what point, I'm going to go in, and I'm going to go and put that in as my standby comm frequency. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but usually I'm right. And that's just a way that you save a little bit of work, because the minute it's time for you to go and change frequencies, you're doing 5 other things and you don't have time. So if you kind of listen ahead to what the pilot ahead of you is being moved to, that's a way to save a little bit of workload in the cockpit. Because invariably, a frequency change always comes when you're trying to make a course correction, set up your ILS, drink coffee. The controllers must know, hey, he's busy. Let's do it. Let's do a frequent. They don't. They're not that wicked, but that's the way it seems to happen. There's your paranoid thinking for today. And okay, 10 miles. So in 10 miles, we're going to be making our turn. Again, we're going to make sure the heading is synced. We're going to go to heading mode. We're going to make the turn as soon as we start seeing the radios, the indicators, the gauges flip around. We'll make our turn. We know that our next turn is going to be right here. So 121. If you've forgotten, this is another reason to always keep your nav log PDF open and easy to go. So we're flying about 162 degrees. Our next heading is true heading. 121 is going to be the next radial that we want to be on. So keeping that in front of you as well lets you fly like an assassin. We are 8 miles, almost time to push some buttons. If you looked at the flight plan, you probably also saw a difference. So VOR DMEs, but SND, Southend, that's not a VOR, that is a non-directional beacon. So we're gonna also fire up the non-directional beacon as we make our way into Southend. And that is this gauge right over here that we will use. And this thing basically just points to the radio station. There's no radials or anything like that. 6 miles. So 6.0 miles. When this becomes 5, we're going to go ahead and take control. Sort of. And of course, the thing about these radios and stuff like that, as you're looking at them, you can stare at them forever. And the minute you look away, that's the minute that it changes. See, it just happened. 5 miles. Okay, come over here. My course heading is synced. Heading hold. And you see, we didn't move around, so we're all synced up. The pilots didn't even know that we made a little change. We're pressing buttons here. All right, so looking over here, 5 miles, so we're going to keep going straight, and we'll make our turn. And what? Oh, look at this. See, our VOR for nav 2, it's centering up. How about if we make the turn when this thing centers up? In fact, we could really be rock stars. Let's go over here, and since we actually have control, let's flip the radio now. There's our next radio station. Let's come on down here. 121. Let's dial this over here. So there is 120, 121. That's pretty close. Let's go ahead now and hit the nav button and see what happens. Oh my gosh, like a pro. How about that? I'm going to be getting a call from the chief pilot at FlyBe Airlines saying, we'd like you to come fly our de Havilland Twin Otters. Probably not. They're probably saying, oh my God, this is a freaking nightmare. The marketing department is calling their lawyers right now. How can we get this guy to not fly our liveries? Okay, now I just went and I updated my heading bug. How far away to our next radio station? 23 miles. We better get to work here. So we've gone from HON to DTY. Now we're going to Brookman's Park, BPK. According to our all of our flight data, so Brookman's Park is 117.5. So 117.5. Let's go ahead and start plugging this stuff in now. So our next radio, 117.5. I'm going to make this one active right now. Let's go up here real fast. 117.5. I'm going to leave that on standby. Look down here. Oh, look at this. We're already picking up our next radio station. So from DTY to BPK, it's the new course heading is 128. Let's go to 128. So there's 125, 6, 7, 8. Okay. When this thing centers up, that's a good indicator that we're at our next spot. And if you really would like to go and just see how great you're doing, a little bit of reinforcement. Okay, well, we kind of missed the turn. We didn't go right over the Han VOR, but we're close. And look at that. There's the town of Coventry. If we look outside the window, hi, Coventry. And if you actually happen to live in the town of Coventry, one of the cool things to do in Microsoft Flight Simulator is take like the Cessna 150 and fly around your hometown. Chances are you're going to recognize a couple of landmarks. And in fact, one of the things that I always suggest if you're a brand new owner of Microsoft Flight Simulator, the very first thing for you to do is what I call the I can see my house from here flight. And that is you get in the Cessna 152 at your hometown airport, take off, and look to see what your house looks like. Because chances are it's going to look, in some cases, pretty good. In some cases, it'll look maybe so-so. But you should clearly be able to recognize, yeah, I live right there. And that is one of the neat things that they've done here with Microsoft Flight Simulator is making, you know, points of interest off real-world maps show up. Still holding 9,000 feet. We are 17 miles from our next checkpoint in the sky. We're all set with our radios. We're currently tracking the next radio station, BPK. Brookman's Park, I believe, is that one. And so we're tracking this one in nav 2. In nav 1, we're going to DTY, and I don't remember the name of that one. I remember Brookman's Park because Brookman's Park is a departure that I did out of, I think it was London City. And I was on VATSIM and I didn't see any ATC except over at Heathrow and Gatwick. And okay, let's just fly around. We're having fun today. And as it turned out, I just blew through the constraints on the departure out of London City Airport. No control. I figured, I'm not in anybody's way. Sure enough, beep, beep, beep. All of a sudden I hear from somebody saying, you know, you're in our traffic. So Brookman's Park, I was supposed to maintain a certain altitude, and I didn't. And so I was getting in other people's way. So that was sort of like, time to expand my consciousness to realize that there are other airplanes out here, and just because there's no ATC doesn't mean I'm not in somebody's way. This thing is slowly getting closer to center. 13 miles, so we're going to do the same thing. And again, for a little bit of visual confirmation, is it going the way you hoped? Sure thing. As we come on up here, we're going to go past Nottingham. So you can kind of, if you live in the area, look off in the distance, and you should start to see points of interest around Nottingham. And if you want, you can go into the assistance menu here in Microsoft Flight Simulator and actually turn on the POIs, the points of interest, and you'll see a sign in front of you that says, you know, Nottingham Starbucks. No, it'll show you the famous places around Nottingham. You know, where's the Nottingham Sheriff? The Nottingham Sheriff's house. Flaps are up, props are good, everything's good there. We're looking over here. We've still got tons of fuel. We've got the torque pressure is right where it's supposed to be. None of the gauges are in the red zone. Another great indicator that you're not about to crash. 10 miles to go. This thing is getting a little bit closer. Once it centers up, we'll flip the radios and try it again. And that's just the way to do this. Now, with this airplane, you could also go, and if you are, you know, a Garmin guru, which I am not, you can put your flight plan into your Garmin, and it will fly your flight plan. So you can be a Garmin guru and do it like that. With an old plane like this, though, flying VOR to VOR, you know, that's the way if you're going to be a private pilot. This is the way that you're going to learn how to do this. VOR to VOR, that's your cross country. One of the things that I did a few years ago was I got in the Cessna 152 over in X-Plane, and I still have all the paperwork and the maps and stuff from my cross country flight that I did as a student pilot to get my private pilot's license. And I went and got in the Cessna, went to the airport where I got that, and I did my cross country. And sure enough, you know, that's one of the cool things about the flight simulators. And those are the ways that it helps you learn what it is that you're doing. And so if you're going to be a student pilot sometime soon, this has become such a valuable training tool. Plus, the other part of it is if you like airplanes and stuff, this is actually kind of like fun. I know people that don't like airplanes are looking at saying, what? This is what you call fun? You need help. Yeah, probably. But still, if you've got a flight simulator and you can turn doing your cross-country planning and stuff into something that's fun, you're going to learn a heck of a lot more. It's one of the things that I've learned with some of the gray hair that I've got here. If you're having fun, you learn better. You remember stuff better. If you're not having fun, it's going to be a long, hard slog. Just no fun at all. So trying to find a way to have fun with this is very important. Okay, there it is, 5 miles. So same thing before. I'm going to take my heading indicator, center it right up. That's about as close as we'll get. Let's go and look out and see if the airplane shudders at all. Heading. Nope, didn't even move, didn't bat an eye. We're already picking up our next VOR station. So one of the things that we can do is let's go ahead and let's flip the radio. 1175. Our next course heading is going to be 128. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see these things. So there is 12. That's about 128. Yeah, that's close. It's not going to be exact. And so what we'll do is we'll just keep going until we get a little bit closer. And when the thing centers up, we'll hit the button and hope it centers up. If it starts going the other way, then we've already flown over that radial. And it's sort of like, oh, better do a course correction. But if these things keep moving over to center, then that means we're doing something right. And in some cases, you know, this is just a really good trial and error kind of a thing. This is a great place to learn. I mean, you've already bought the simulator. Looking over at my map, I don't see these things. Well, maybe it did move a little bit. Let's see what happens. While we're waiting, we could also go, and after Brookman's Park, we're going to the LAM VOR. That's 115.6. So let's go over here, and 115. Some of these are hard to get. 0.6. Okay, there's our next VOR. Let's change that. So nav2 is set to our next radio station after that. This thing isn't moving too much, but we'll just keep waiting. Maybe it moved a little bit. And to go from Brookman's Park to the next VOR, it's 127. So that's like 1 point off. So 127. We're already picking up the LAM VOR, so that's good. This does appear to be moving closer. So we'll just keep doing it this way. And if you're worried that you're way off course, let's look up. Well, maybe I am a little way off course here. We're kind of getting off to the side. So if that's the case, let's go and slide this way. Nope. Okay, that's basically going to take us right to, that's 2 or 3 degrees off. Let's just hit nav, and we'll do that. You can see we're turning a little bit. So the airplane's turning a bit, but it's turning me closer to get on our line to go to the next VOR. So we're going to Brookman's Park now. Anything interesting along the way? Here's a small town called Buckingham. Leighton Buzzard. The town names are absolutely, are just entertaining as hell. Here's St. Albans. And we can zoom out just a little bit. We're getting pretty close. We're going to go basically to the north of London here. Let's go ahead and get the non-directional beacon ready to go. So this thing's down here. The NDB is this guy right here. And the non-directional beacon that we're going to track to for Southend is 362.5. Let's see if we can't dial that in. So ADF frequency 362. I don't know how to do a 0.5 here. I can do a 3.6. I can do 362. I do not know how to do a 0.5. But that NDB is 362.5. You learn along the way with this. So as we kind of come in here a little bit closer, there's Southend. We can go to the World VFR chart. It just says 362. There's no 0.5 here at SND. So that should work out pretty good. And remember, we're going to be landing to the southeast. So we're going to want to kind of go to the north of this to come in on our turn. So 362 should be 5. I don't know how to do a 0.5 on this one. That could be something that is really, really new. We are 36 miles away from Brookman's Park. We should start to see some exciting stuff coming up from London. Most of London's going to be off to the right. The sun's getting a little low on the horizon too. There's Captain Coop still. There's Crater Maker and AKA Dave. It's going to start getting a little bit dark, so we could go and hit the flight compartment light, and that's going to turn on lights in the flight compartment. case the cabin passengers, want to see what's going on in there. And this is what we do. So I tell you what, it's going to be, how many miles do we need? We have 34 miles. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do one of the little pause edits. I'm almost out of coffee. So we're going to stop the video. You're just going to see a little dissolve. Go through, do the turn at Brookman's Park to LAM, and we'll pick it up on the other side of that. How about that sunset? This is one of the things that I gotta tell you, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and X-Plane does really well too, but Microsoft Flight Simulator, it is all about the visual experience, and boy, is it just absolutely amazing. Hey, welcome back. Thank you for coming in. Let's hit the right button instead of the wrong button. And look at this. We have already gone from the Brookman's Park to the LAM VOR, so I've already made that turn. Okay, so what we've got to do next is after this, we're going, our next turn is going to be towards the airport itself. And remember, there's no VOR. We're going to a non-directional beacon. So what's the true heading for LAM to Southend is going to be 105. So as a reminder, let's go and just dial this to 105. So this is going to be there is 105. So there's our next heading. Okay, we've already got nav in control, so let's also dial this over to 105 too. There's 12, 11. There is 105. There's our next turn. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make that turn in 6 miles. So 6 miles is our next turn that we're going to be making this. Now we don't have the Brookman's Park, the Southend non-directional beacon showing up yet. So we've still, this is going to be not to a VOR. We're just going to make the turn and start hunting for that NDB, non-directional beacon. Okay, so the other thing that we need to do is start getting ready for our approach and our landing. And so what we're going to do is coming in over the Southend non-directional beacon, we've got a procedure turn and an ILS. So our ILS is going to be 111.35. So let's go ahead and put those in. We can do that next, right? So let's do the bottom one first. 111. So 111. Let's zoom in just a little bit there, make it easier to see. 0.35. And we're going to go ahead and I can just make this one active. Let's make that active over there. But let's also go up here. 111.35. And we've got our ILS set up for our approach in just a bit. Now still, we've got 3 miles to the LAM VOR. So it's now it's 2 miles. So we're almost to the LAM VOR. We're still kind of going in that general direction. So nav has got us. So all we're going to do is after we go across the VOR, we're going to hit the heading button. And if you look, you can actually see on the map. And I don't use the map very much. Like I said, I am not a Garmin guru, but you can actually see that show up there. So now we're 2 miles. We're 1 mile. And we're just going to hit the heading button. No sign of the non-directional beacon yet. There's 1 mile. Now we could have also left the VORs tuned and we would have seen things flip around. Up there it is. We just went over it. Let's hit nav. So the arrow went off and then it flipped around. So we just crossed it. And now by hitting nav, I was an idiot. We hit heading. Sorry. We have to hit heading and now we're going to turn towards Southend. The other thing that we're going to want for Southend is our inbound, is the ILS course, and that's 233. So we're going to dial this thing over now to 233. Okay, there's 2-3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is all set up. This is not picking up the ILS yet. But we do know that we're 3 miles away from the LAM VOR. And if you look at your flight plan, you know that from the LAM VOR to the SND non-directional beacon is 20 miles. So as we get a little bit closer, we can leave this tuned over here, and that's just going to tell us how far away we are. But the big thing we care about is seeing this indicator point straight up. And if it points straight up, then that's pretty good for us. If we look in down here, you know what? VLOC 111.35 is actually active. Let's dial this around and see if this let's see if this it's pointing in that general direction. That's the ILS. I think we're way too far away to be picking up the ILS. So there's 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I don't know that that's the ILS yet, but we're getting closer. Now, how about top of descent? So over here, we can look at the chart and see that we're supposed to go down to 2,500. Oh no, it's math time. So we are at 9,000 feet minus 2,000 to come in. 1, 2, 3 times 3 divided by 1,000. I need 21 miles for our descent to get down to 2,000 feet. I think that means we probably better start thinking about descending because there's only 20 miles to the airport. So for our descent, we're going to go ahead and let's see if we can make this work. 2,000 feet. Is what we want. Let's just hit the altitude button and see what happens. And let's pull our power back a bit. Let's see if that did it. Probably not. And you pull this back to 10 psi on that torque pressure. So 10 psi. Again, well, we've started a descent, so let's just not try and fix it. Let's descend at about 1,000 feet per minute. That's pretty good. And see if we stop. We got to keep an eye out, make sure we don't go past 2,000 feet, but we may be in pretty good shape. Now, at this point, if you're a little unsure of what you're doing, you can come over here and again, use your map on Sim Toolkit Pro. We're really kind of close to on course here. We're doing pretty good. We're doing not so bad. I want to go over to the north, though, of the airport here so we can set up for the ILS. So according to that, we're in relatively good shape. Our descent is relatively good. Let's go and do an updated weather report, though, because the weather sometimes changes. So the Southend weather, EGMC, right? EGMC, there's our latest weather. Winds are 0403. So the wind picked up. It's a gentle breeze off the sea, so not bad. The altimeter is 1033. So I'm going to go and copy and paste these into my notes. Okay, so that looks good. Actually, it looks like the winds are now favoring runway 5. Let's stick with the plan. It's only 3 knots. It's not that naughty. There's your bad joke to have a 3-knot tailwind, right? Yes, there's your bad joke for the flight today. Transition. So right now, transition altitude is 6,000. A rule of thumb that I got from one of the people who watches the Spy Flight, Master Chief, says take 6,000. Add 1,000 to it, and that's a good indicator of what your transition level might be. It's a real loose rule of thumb on this one. So we're going to set the altimeters at 7,000 feet. Now, if you're on VATSIM, it's below 7,000 feet. Think we better set the altimeters 1033. So come on over here and 1033. High pressure all over the UK. Boy, did I pick the right day to fly over the UK. 1033 on our way down. Pretty good. See, we could pull the power just a little bit more to get it closer to 10%. And our descent is really not too terribly awful at the moment. We still don't have our non-directional beacon showing up, though. I did flip the frequencies, so it is set to the ADF. We're descending at about 100 knots. That's a good thing, too. And it looks like it's going to be a fabulous sunset descent tonight. There's a nice view of the Thames. Fun thing to do with your Cessna or a small jet or something is to fly up the Thames. That is a good thing to do. Let's go ahead and do seatbelts. Passengers need to get in their chairs. We should probably, we're below 10,000 feet. I'm going to go ahead and turn on landing lights. Want people to see the airplane a little bit. No sign of our non-directional beacon, though. 362. 362. That is sometimes things don't work. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing as far as plugging in a non-directional beacon that has a decimal point. But you can see that, as you're teaching yourself to do stuff like this, it's all about a little bit of innovation here and there. This is also a VFR flight. We do have some clouds in the area, so technically we should not be flying through clouds. But you could also start looking around to see, there might be an airport out here. Oh, I see there's the Thames Estuary area, I believe. There should be an airport that we should start seeing. So let's keep an eye out for an airport. Passing 4,000 feet. And again, if you get nervous, just use your little map from Sim Toolkit Pro and see what you got. Now, we're still kind of heading towards the airport here. And remember, we're going to do a procedure turn over the non-directional beacon. Now's a great time to also start thinking through what it is we're doing. So after we go over the non-directional beacon here, we're going to turn to a heading of 038 degrees for 9 miles. No sign of that NDB yet, though. Any sign of an airport? In fact, look at that. There's our airport. Haha. See how things work out? So as we go over the airport, the non-directional beacon did not work for us. So let's get ready to go to a heading of 038. See the way that this works out for beginners and stuff? It's okay to do this. Okay? The non-directional beacon police are not going to come knocking at your door about things like that. And if you look, I think we are picking up that ILS. I think that's going to be it. We could verify by listening to the radio and beep, 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 beep. It would tell us that. We're coming up on 2,000 feet. That's pretty much what we wanted, so that's fairly nice. Well, my ADF just did not do what I was hoping today. There's 1,000 feet. Airplane takes off and lands really, really nicely at about 175. If you go out over the coast, so basically you see, we got a little river here. What's all this about? Look at your map. We got a little river here. That's halfway to our procedure turn. How about that? Oh no, we've got clouds. Is it cold outside? Is it freezing? Let's look up here. See this thing here? There's your outside air temperature. It's between 0 and 10 degrees. Technically, this is the ice zone. So we have to be worried about icing. If you're also a little bit lost, you could look around here. There is our airport. And as we're kind of coming around here, we'll come back in on that ILS. So here we go. We're kind of going to hit 2,000. Let's see if it starts to slow the descent. It's slowing the descent. I didn't fix anything, so this is bizarre to me. Eventually, you're going to be able to count on this as far as altitude hold. Now, as soon as we do start to level off at 2,000, we're going to notice that our speed starts to go down a bit. Fact is, there's 100 knots. How about a notch of flaps? Let's go ahead and start getting ready to bring this thing in. Flaps are going to 10. Speed's going down a bit. I don't want to go too slow. I want to keep it at about 100 here. And look at that. It's going to hold us at 2,000. It's climbing a little bit now. We don't want to climb. So don't add too much power. Now is a great chance if you've kind of sat in your flight simulator chair and you're all folded up and comfortable and stuff like that. Now is an absolutely amazingly good time to straighten up, put your feet on the rudder pedals, and be ready to go off of autopilot. Coming back down to 2,000 feet. Where's that river? Oh, we passed the river, and up there's the coast. That's a good indicator that we could probably start our turn back to the runway. How about if we do that? Let's go ahead and start a turn back to the runway. So let's just let the autopilot do some work for us. And I'm going to just go and turn us so we're about 30, 40 degrees off the ILS and see what happens. So still making the turn, still making the turn. That's probably good. Let's go this way. There's a little more of that river. Let's see if we're actually going to capture this and actually do landing. Again, if you're a little worried, Sim Toolkit Pro. Look at your map. Oh, that looks like we're doing what it is that we thought we were supposed to do. So this thing should start to center up. I do not have glide slope or anything like that, though. And because we're visual, this is a small airplane, the other thing to do is start keeping an eye out for our airport. Again, if you're just not sure, it's not cheating to look at the moving map. Eventually, you'll get to a point where you're not going to look at the moving map, but right now, it's always okay to do that. Now, I personally think that this should be on the other side. This might not be right. This might be right. Did I set my radios correct? 1-1. Oh, look at that. It should. I didn't flip my radio. 111.3. Oh, look at this. Now all of a sudden everything's right. Gee, I think we figured that out. Oh, there's the runway. Autopilot off. Turn. And in fact, look at that. Here comes the localizer. Do we have glide slope? I don't see glide slope here. So we're going to be visual now. I'm going to reduce some power just a bit. Props now go to full in case we have to go around. And we'll just descend. Now we're all visual. Take a look here. You see we've got our PAPI lights there. They're all white. Reducing power just a little bit more. I think it's one of them is trying to turn red now. So we're getting close. I'm pulling my power back a little bit more. This is technically not the way the real world people are going to do things like this, but this is how we can do it in flight sim. And eventually, like I said at the beginning, you can jump down real world rabbit holes after you learn how to do it. Flaps are now 20. I'm pulling my power back even more. There's 80 knots. Airplane loves 75, it seems like. There's another notch of flaps. I usually stop at flaps 30 for landing on this thing. There's 80. I'm going to start increasing my throttles a bit. There's a red light. Finally catching up with the glide slope. And look at that. We actually have glide slope showing up in the indicator now. So I must have been a little high. Now we add even more power. We got low. Not too much. And let's say landing. Beautiful night lights. And this is the other part. If you can arrange your arrivals and departures around sunrise or sunset, wow, are you going to be happy.
Light slow, 50, 40, light slow, 30, 20, 10.
Reverse, gently put the nose down on the ground, gently do some brakes. Done with reverse and roll out. How about that? And this is generally an on-time arrival too. Let's look for a taxiway. Terminal is off to the left. There's our little green lights. Green lights are a great indicator of when a taxiway is coming up, especially about now. Flaps can go up. And let's see if we can't find a terminal. Remember, we checked and we know that our gate should be gate 2. You could also look off to the side. There's the terminal. One of the things that I have set up is I have I've got a view on a button, and so my main cockpit view is on a button on my joystick. That way, if I'm looking right or left, all I have to do is hit that button and it returns me to straight ahead. Boy, does that make life a lot nicer. And we come on into the terminal area. I generally know the layout of this little airport, but at this point in time, it'd be a good thing for you to have your terminal set up, terminal layout here. So we landed here and we're kind of coming back around like this. There's those hangars. There's the main terminal. We're not going to go to a jetway stop. We're going to go to gate 2. And if you look down there, there's gate 11. Now we'll look on the paint. The paint on the ground can sometimes be your best friend. There's 9. Assuming they have not changed the laws of math, we're good. Remember where the parking brake is on this thing? It's right down there. There's 6. Or maybe that was 9. 6 and 9. There's a weak attempt at humor. 5. You can also look outside if you need to. 3. We missed 4. Look over there. Is there an airplane there? Nope. Whoops. Too much brake. And look for the little yellow line to get us to the gate. Wow, we're right by the control tower. And no gate guidance going in, so just go until you think you've got your wheel right at the little cross there. That's probably good. Look down. Parking brakes. Okay, our props can go all the way down to minimum. Let's turn off the landing light. We don't want to be blinding people. We're not going to roll around anymore, so we can do the taxi light off. We could also turn off the pitot tube heat. Those things I hear get a little on the hot side, and you can burn people on the ground, get their hands burned. And props now to feather. Passengers generally want to get up about now. Let's go over here, and we're going to turn the bleeds off. I forgot to turn off the strobes off the runway, so we can do that. And at this point in time, let's do fuel cutoffs. And we're even kind of right where we're supposed to be. How about that? There's another spy pilot. There's T-Boss over there flying around today. So all of that looks good. We can come up here. Seatbelts are off. No smoking. We've got position lights. We would also at this point want to go and turn off the generators on this. And there you go. That's pretty much what it is that we would do. Important safety tip. You remember over here? There's a couple of buttons here that we didn't need today. This one right here, it's called the windshield heat. You know about icing here in Microsoft Flight Simulator. It can be really bad. So if your windshield starts to ice up, windshield heat is over here for the co-pilot. And then over here is the rest of your de-icing gear. And look at that. We did it. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was arrested. And you know what? We actually even arrived. We arrived on time. So I did go, and there will be a link to the Discord server that the Spy Flight has. And I will put my little list, my little to-do list here. So the last few checklist items that I have is pizza and your favorite beverage. So I will have that. That's over on Discord, so you can go and get my flight notes on that. I find it's really, really helpful when you've got a new airplane to go and do those sorts of things. It really does help a lot. And there you go. Thank you for flying along. I hope this helped you show, just some of the basic buttons on this really cool new airplane. Again, there's deep rabbit holes that you can kind of jump into, and you can learn how to fly this thing in the sim world. It's not the right way. It's not the wrong way. It's just what works for me. I will look for your questions and comments here on YouTube, and I will answer them. And I also hope you'll come over and join us on the Spy Flight over on Twitch. It's 757 Spy. It's a great place to just come and hang out, especially as the latest variant means we all have to stay home again. And yeah, I also have a couple of spy stories on Amazon if you want to support that way. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are staying healthy and safe, and I hope you have a lot of fun with this airplane. Cheers.